Its charm lay in the quaint houses that dotted the streets and the swirling mist that rolled in from the surrounding woods at dusk. Its charm lay in the quaint houses that dotted the streets and the swirling mist that rolled in from the surrounding woods at dusk. But for a handful of its residents, something else rested at the heart of those woods, a legend that whispered through the wind and echoed in dreams. After moving to Pine Hollow, 17-year-old Claire Thompson quickly learned about the local lore, particularly the ominous tale of the Mothman. The townsfolk spoke of him with a mixture of fear and reverence. He was said to appear before disasters, flitting through the night like a dark omen, his massive wings casting shadows on the ground and his glowing red eyes piercing through the darkness. Most thought it was just a myth, a way for the community to cope with their mundane lives, but Claire couldn't shake the chill that crawled up her spine whenever she heard the name. As winter melted into spring, strange occurrences began to plague Pine Hollow. Livestock went missing, vanishing without a trace, and the townspeople reported visions of a looming shadow in the woods. Claire, torn between curiosity and dread, decided to investigate. One evening, armed with a flashlight and the stories her new friends had told her, she ventured into the dense, murky forest. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stepped over gnarled roots and damp leaves. The sun had set, and the trees twisted into grotesque shapes against the moonlight. Each rustle in the underbrush sent shivers down her spine, and she wondered if she was foolhardy or brave. After what felt like hours of wandering, she stumbled upon an abandoned cabin, shrouded in darkness and whispering secrets of the past. Pushing open the creaky door, she flicked on her flashlight, illuminating dust motes dancing through the air. The cabin was filled with remnants of lives long gone, broken furniture, cobwebs draping from the corners like veils of despair, and walls that seemed to cry out with sorrow. But it wasn't the decay that caught her attention, it was the drawings. Scattered across the walls were crude depictions of a creature with huge wings and glowing eyes, the Mothman. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Claire swung her flashlight toward the window, heart racing, but there was nothing, just the thick blackness of the woods surrounding her. Too nervous to linger, she turned to leave when something dark swooped past the window, its shadow stretching ominously. Before she could process what was happening, a bone-chilling screech echoed from the forest, reverberating off the cabin walls. It was deep and guttural, a sound that resonated with an ancient fear. Instinct kicked in. She bolted out of the cabin, her feet pounding against the forest floor, heart thundering in her ears. Branches reached out like skeletal fingers, clawing at her as she ran. The air grew heavy with a sense of being watched, and she dared not look back. The night was alive with rustles, flapping wings, and that dreadful screech, which seemed to follow her every step. Panic rose in her throat as she stumbled over roots and rocks, her flashlight flickering in and out. Finally, Claire burst into a clearing, the moonlight washing over her like a blanket of safety. She paused, catching her breath, and for a fleeting moment, everything felt still, until the ground beneath her began to vibrate with an eerie hum. Claire's breath hitched as she turned slowly to face the dark line of trees at the edge of the clearing. There he was. The Mothman stood at the edge of the woods, his massive form silhouetted against the shadows, eyes glowing like scarlet flames. His wings unfurled, stretching wide and casting a monstrous shadow around her. Claire froze, a chill running down her spine as an all-consuming dread enveloped her. In that moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of despair wash over her. His gaze pierced through her, and visions of calamity flooded her mind, fires, floods, the cries of lost loved ones. She stumbled back, turning to flee, but it was no use. The shadows of the woods consumed her once more. When they found her 2 days later, she lay unconscious at the edge of the woods, pale and shivering. The local doctors diagnosed her with nothing more than exhaustion, a teenager lost in the woods. But she'd seen the Mothman and lived to tell the tale, yet she could never convey the urgency of his warning. From that night on, a dark weight settled over Pine Hollow. The town spoke in hushed whispers, the Mothman increasingly a part of their reality. Claire struggled with her dreams, haunted by visions that foretold the tragedies she could never escape. Days turned into weeks. The world moved on, yet Claire remained tethered to that dreadful encounter. As she walked through the town, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Mothman was watching, waiting, reminding her that some legends were rooted in dark truths, and the price of ignorance could be far more devastating than anyone could imagine.